everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are so excited today. We love Heartland on this podcast, and we love talking with the actors from Heartland. And we are so excited today to have Chris Potter on. And Chris, thank you so much for coming on and talk with us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So this is our first time having you on the show. And so we always love to get to know you a little bit better. How did you get started in the world of acting, and how did you get your career off?
Well, I think it's a story we've heard over and over again. Basically, it started as a kid. Of course, in my day, that meant theater. And I gravitated to very, very few things academically and a lot of things extracurricularly. And in other words, I love sports, which was my father's side of the family, and I loved music and started to play instruments at a young age because my mother was a singer and a musician of sorts, played guitar. Mm-hmm. So I think that was part of the landscape of my childhood. Yeah. And I showed an interest in it very young, and then I got involved in theater as a kid. Mm-hmm. And it progressed to the point of adulthood when I realized that where I was living, there really wasn't an industry for my interests in theater and music. So I hit the road with a rock band in my late teens and early 20s, and I kept my foot in the door with amateur theater. And I worked for a living for an insurance company.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't till late in my 20s that I was literally discovered in a play by someone of note who, I guess, who alerted, fortunately, the right casting people. And before I knew it, I was in the business. Mm-hmm. And I had some big decisions to make because I was now married with a baby and a mortgage.
Yeah.
So looking back, it was a calculated risk, but a big risk nonetheless for me to get into the business. And I've never looked back, and I feel very, very fortunate that I made the right decision after all.
So how did you end up getting involved with Good Witch? How did that all happen?
I don't know. I think I was available. I think I've always been lucky that I've been able to, my career was primarily in the U.S. for 17 years, even though we would film certain things in Canada. And one of the advantages at times for Canadian actors is to be able to work in Canada, unlike some American actors.
Right.
So working on both sides of the border was sort of essential back then, but it was also an advantage for American producers to have a Canadian actor that was recognizable somewhat to American audiences, and allowed them to qualify for certain tax breaks. Basically, I'm a tax break. But I've done a number of jobs like that, and I think that's where that came up. They were looking for a Canadian leading guy and to work opposite Catherine, and the job was offered to me, and I jumped at it. Although it was a challenge. We did 7 movies, and I did those while I was filming Heartland, which meant that I was traveling
tough
a 4.5-hour flight. I'd take the red eye after filming on set at Heartland, and I'd land in Toronto, and I'd drive an hour, if I was lucky, to Hamilton to shoot my Good Witch stuff for a couple of days, and then fly right back out to set in Calgary. So most of the Good Witch movies are a whirlwind in my
that makes sense.
Of lost memories.
Yeah, I mean, was that tough when you had to pick between they're doing this series and you
Well,
have to pick
the
between.
funny thing is I did pick. I said I'll do them both, and
Oh,
Heartland
really?
was willing to allow me to do both.
Mm,
The problem, it's always about money and
right. Yeah.
and control. And the problem was that I had come to terms with them on a agreed price, but the one condition that Hallmark had was that they wanted first position on my time. And
Uh,
because the negotiations with them dragged on, or I don't know what reason, I re-signed a lengthy contract with Heartland,
mm,
who now had first position on my time, even though they were
right.
willing to work with Hallmark.
Yeah.
Um, but Hallmark wouldn't go for that. They wanted first position on my time,
Mm,
and I couldn't give it to them. So
right.
uh, I was disappointed. I would have loved to have done both, but it's all right. I
Yeah.
made the right choice. Here we are,
Yeah.
season 17 and
Yeah.
counting on Heartland.
There's no question about that. Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. So what do you think has made the Heartland show? What do you think has made it last so long and had such a legacy?
Well, I guess the more humorous answer to that would be years ago when we were just finished season 1. We had a publicist who was really, really excited about the success of the show, and I mean, a bit too much. So you would
Yeah.
constantly announce to the actors what the ratings were and how well the show was doing, and so on. And I've always been a very under the radar type person. I said, don't jump up and down and draw all kinds of attention. Let's just succeed silently. We might
Like
be able
stay
to
under
do
the
this
radar.
for a
Yeah.
long time. And I said, if the U.S. gets an inkling to copy this, they're gonna remake it with people with stars that like Treat Williams will be the grandfather,
Right.
and Heather Conkey, our showrunner, and who is an amazing woman,
Yes.
currently has a hit with her
Yeah.
daughter Alex, which on a show I just love.
Mm-hmm.
Said, yeah, but if a U.S. network picks it up, they'll have Ty and Amy in bed in the 3rd episode.
Right. Right.
She said it's going to take us 8 years. So
Yeah.
to answer your question, the success to Heartland was staying consistent to the tone,
Right.
To the theme of the show, and without making it too soap operish.
Right.
Bring the audience along patiently. So there's a certain temperature that
Yeah.
Heartland operates at that
Mm-hmm.
obviously fills a need out there
Mm-hmm.
for shows like Heartland and of that ilk.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. So Tim has had some rough patches on the show. Did you ever worry about him being unlikable as a character, or did you ever worry about, okay, are the fans how are
No,
they gonna react?
well, no, I mean, that was actually kind of fun part.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. It is interesting when you mention fans because I'd played the hero and the guy that couldn't do anything wrong in a few series prior to Heartland, and people tend to treat you like your character.
Right.
And when you play an antagonist, people tend to treat you like an antagonist at times
Yeah.
in real
Yeah.
life. I was never worried about it. It was just, but I did have to find that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that developed after getting into season one when I realized that certain characters and actors on the show weren't comfortable um, being the fall guy, being antagonistic. So
Right.
it was a choice that I sort of began to present in my delivery
Mm-hmm.
and in my relationships with the characters, and it was working. And then the writers started to write into it, and it became uh, part of his character. Um, and I think it's been somewhat consistent over the years. I've always said
Yeah.
Tim really is there to fill in the cracks. So sometimes I've felt that the character can be a little inconsistent, but that's fun to work with too. You can build it into your personality, and
Yeah.
so Tim's really evolved. And the one thing bringing us up to date, and I think U.S. viewers are up to date at this point, where Tim is now married.
Right.
Um, you know, in my mind, that was going to change the man,
Mm-hmm.
um, especially marrying a woman of the quality that
Yeah.
Jessica
Jess.
is.
Yeah.
That she wasn't going to tolerate this immature
Mm-hmm.
buffoon. So um, it had to straighten Tim up,
Yeah.
and I think the fans have noticed that change. And yet, I still try to find my moments in there. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the writers try to write some of that antagonistic, reactionary type of character as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
proactive type character.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like Tim and Jack are on such a good phase of of the show. And it must be fun to kind of see that relationship and other relationships on the show kind of evolve and morph as well.
It is tricky, but it is good to see. Yes.
Yeah. 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 So your main horse is Champ on this show. What's that like, kind of like working with all the horses, but like one particular horse?
Well, I've had a couple of different horses, and
Mm,
it was in the past, uh, just this past season, I believe, that we finally retired Tonka, my horse that I'd had for 15 or 16, 15 seasons.
wow.
We take such a long break between seasons that horses age too.
Sure.
So, or they just have big fat winters where they show up on set and they're not the same looking horse that they were. They, they haven't been moving very much in the cold Alberta winter, and they've been
Mm,
eating. And so Tonka, I think, somewhat grew out of his former self. But I have a new horse named Dollar, and he plays Champ,
mm-hmm,
and he is almost identical
mm,
to Tonka. Tonka was a little bit bigger and a lot more aggressive. He was a real powerhouse, and
mm-hmm,
he had a real personality. So he and I
yeah,
we got to know each other pretty well.
mm-hmm,
But he would let me know when the day was over.
right. Yeah, I bet. I mean, is that something you had a lot of experience with horses before
No,
starting the show, or?
I just we just talked about this recent podcast for Up TV, and I was I'm an athletic person, so it's always helped me in the roles that I played
Yeah.
prior to Heartland. So I had done quite a bit of riding as a young guy, but whatever I thought I knew, I quickly realized in my very first few months on Heartland that this was a whole new world. And I've always been comfortable on a horse and around horses, but I really didn't know very much about those beautiful creatures. And
Yeah.
I really didn't know much about people that spend their lifetime dedicated to raising and caring for horses and using them in their line of work. So I have a tremendous respect for that, and I miss it in the time that we have off. I really do get excited knowing that I'm going to be back on set around all those people and their beautiful animals. So that's been a great gift in being a part of this series.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy,
and me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release, and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
Always just amazed at how they're able to like make up and make the horses like fit, the plot lines when they have to be like fake injured and fake, whatever. Like, I'm just like, how did they get it? It looks so real.
It is real. Mind you, it's movie magic, but
right.
I'm not talking about CGI or trickery.
Right.
These are men and women that work with these animals and get the horses to perform, tasks that they feel they're with some time and a little rehearsal, they can accomplish. It's fascinating though to see how they pick certain horses to do certain things. And it's amazing to me actually how we have people that have specialty horses. For instance, if we need a black stallion, there's some man or woman out there that has a beautiful black stallion that'll tap dance for you. It's amazing. Yeah. There are just so many people with so much skill and so many people with horses out there that we seem to, our wranglers and stunt coordinators seem to find exactly what's required for the job, and they make it work. And as planned as we are for those situations, something we're always improvising. It's always in the moment because you just never know.
Right. Yeah. So you have been married a long time and you have 4 kids. And so I was just curious how like 4 adult kids, like how has that like helped you think, in playing Tim and playing a dad?
Oh, well, it certainly helped me back when I started directing in the 90s. I can remember thinking the very first time I directed and got involved in prep and so on, I thought, oh, this isn't very much unlike having 4 kids. You get asked questions all day long that pertain to the person that's asking them.
Right.
And you have to pay attention to each and every person because you never know. The house actually might be on fire. But the goal is to get everyone to bed by 9 o'clock. And I often felt that was like having a crew. It was sort of, I've got to pay attention to every person because each of their departments is important. And yet I am on the clock. I need to get these. So
that makes sense.
Family life helped early on with that. And I suppose, I don't know, but I think part of the answer to my choices in my career have been that I do have a family. I started
Right.
in the business with uh, children, and I didn't really have the luxury of saying no to many things, and
Right.
really had to hit the ground running. So if I got an offer or I got the job, I'd take it. And my goal was to make it last. I never did ever take much time to calculate my decisions. Um, and I think it's paid off because, well, fortunately, it's paid off because Heartland, I started Heartland when I was 46. So I'd already had 17 years into the business
Wow.
of heavy work.
Mm-hmm.
So taking a job that's lasted this long has been a real gift, and
Yeah.
it's been very beneficial for my family.
Mm-hmm.
In an unpredictable business,
Right.
it's been really helpful for us as a group to be able to be somewhat predictable. And now they're all grown, and they all have their own professions and or careers, and it's fun. It's just
Yeah.
Karen and I, and yeah, we have
I
been
mean,
married for 37 years this year, but
that is a
we met
huge
we met when we
accomplishment.
were 19 and
That's
18.
amazing.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I still have a tape of my band playing an outdoor show, and me saying something to that effect that, well, tomorrow I think I said I turn 20 tomorrow. I made some comment, and I have it
Yeah.
because we were trying to figure out one day how long we'd been together, and I said, I think this was the summer that we met, and so on. So it goes back to that age. So
Wow.
yeah, man, that's a
That's
long.
awesome. Do you think that they will ever make another Heartland movie?
Well, why not?
Yeah, we'd love it.
Yeah, why not? I think we're always just faced again, money. This is
Yeah.
always it's not about. There's clearly an audience out there.
Yeah.
Um, so I suppose it's whether it's worth the investment.
Yeah.
And that is the side of the business I'm not involved in.
Sure. Well, so what can people expect from season 17 that you think will, what's your pitch? People tune in. What do you think the Heartland fans are going to enjoy about season 17?
I think, well, first of all, it's a good one.
Hmm.
There's development for all of the characters, and that the fans will appreciate. I don't think it's a spoiler because he was introduced, but Shane is Tim's son. Shane comes back into the picture. So in the storyline of Tim, that's a big arc.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some things resolved in there. In the storyline of Amy, there are some developments there. It's tricky for me to wade into this because I don't want to spoil something.
Sure.
And we also had a good enough weather season.
Oh, that's good.
We're very susceptible to the weather changes, and smoke has been a big problem the past couple of years with the forest fires and so on. We have a saying that we call it the Heartland Horseshoe, where we manage to skirt these major environmental issues that come our way when all heck is breaking loose and there's fire everywhere, and we've got to shoot for a week outside in the coming week, and suddenly the wind changes, and we manage to find a window of opportunity to get just what we need before the wind changes and blows back the smoke, and we just get lucky. And but those are big challenges on Heart.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, do you have a favorite season of the show?
Oh, just the next one.
Yeah.
Just the next, I can't remember all the seasons.
Right.
My favorite one's the one I can remember, which is not one.
Yeah.
It's funny about memory that way. When
Mhm.
you've done something this long, I have these snapshots throughout time, and
Yeah.
some of them are moments of real challenge. For instance, with
Mhm.
the weather, and other
Yeah.
times there are moments of I just remember all day laughing, because of the certain actors that are on set, and the snapshots have been wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anybody that can look back on their career and smile and have warm memories, you're a lucky person, I think.
Well, I used to
So
joke.
many people hate their jobs. So,
Well,
yeah.
that's why I agree. That's why I try to promote that with my children over the
Yeah.
years. That
Yeah.
it goes by quickly, so take a chance.
Hmm.
If it's a calculated risk and you believe in yourself, when I say calculated, I mean
Right.
if you're 5'5" and you want to play in the NBA,
Right. Not the best.
reevaluate
Yeah.
reevaluate your goal. But
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
feel you can almost touch it, well, then you can catch it, and it's worth trying. So, but you have to be realistic, I suppose, to a point.
Yeah.
And this business is, at best, can be just slightly better than disappointing. So, it's not like
Yeah.
what you're seeing as a viewer is the tip of the iceberg. It's all the disappointment below that it takes people
Sure.
to get there, and constant rejection. I just watched the documentary on Steve Martin. I forget
Oh, I
what
heard that's good.
it's on, but you want to
Hmm.
talk about a guy that just took a punishing amount of rejection over the years, and to get to where he ended up and is today.
Hmm.
It was inspiring.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I
anyway,
think that's why people love Heartland, because it's got that heart, it's got that soul behind it, and that family, behind it that they feel part of, and it's really funny because my friend Michelle and we started during the pandemic. We started recapping and watching the show,
mhm.
and it literally took us 3 years to catch up.
Wow. How often?
Every week we recapped 2 episodes a week. It
That's great.
took us about 3 years, and yeah, and I told Amber, I was like, we saw you grow up in 2 years. Like it's such an interesting experience to see, all those years of someone's life compacted into 3 years of our life. And
Well, that and you can add that, as I said, if we finish in say, early September, a year
Yeah.
where we'll do, some years we do more episodes than others, but in the past we've been finishing up early September, and we don't start again till mid-May.
Right.
Well, that's 7.5 months, eight
Yeah.
months. Excuse me. A little person can change dramatically in 8 months.
Yeah, that's true.
And you see these things happen in the show. I in my case, I just try to fit into my belt every year.
Right.
I take my belt home, and I just make sure that when I show up for set 8 months later, that I can still get that belt on and in the same hole.
Yeah.
That's about
That's
as much change
not
as
easy.
I
It
go
was
through.
17 seasons.
No, you're right. It's not.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think that's really cool that you had a pandemic watching group.
It was
going.
really fun. And my co-host, she's actually from Scotland. So it was like it's the funnest little combo
Yeah.
of an American and Scottish person recapping this Canadian show to get through the pandemic. So what are you gonna
Well, we did a similar thing with our bubble during the pandemic, and
Mhm.
with some neighbors when we were in lockdown. that had never really watched the show. So we watched
Yeah.
that particular season. And
Mhm.
so we'd do a dinner party and then we'd watch the show. And the rule was no questions. Since I'm in the room, they always have questions.
Right. Yeah.
The rule was no questions until the commercials. I'm not allowed to ask a question until the commercials. But I think that Heartland serves that purpose for a lot of people. And that, there you go. That's the magic of it.
Yeah.
And shows like that. A number of British shows I think are like that. And
yeah, All Creatures Great and Small. That's very similar, and that's one I recommend. Yeah.
And there's a need for them. So I hope it goes for a long time.
Yeah, well, we do too. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies. Well,
just real quick, we have the rapid fire get to know you questions, and then we'll close. So what is the best ice cream flavor?
Oh, like specifically?
Yes.
Cherry Garcia.
Okay. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Okay. What music are you into?
All of it, played by talented people. I can't even. I can't even go there.
Okay. What's your go-to date night food?
Did you say date night?
Yeah.
I can't remember. We're with each other 24 hours a day. Every night's date night. Anything my wife makes is absolutely. I am serious. We don't even go out anymore because the food's not good enough. So,
that's so sweet.
Yeah, but I would say this. My favorite date night food. We have a dinner party. We live in San Diego. There's a place here called Cardiff, and they're famous for their tri-tip that's marinated, and they call it Cardiff Crack. And Cardiff Crack nights are always kind of fun.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, which do you like better, dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Okay. Which do you like better, beaches or mountains?
Oh, beaches. Okay. I don't know. Mountains.
Okay. What's your favorite holiday to celebrate?
For us now, Labor Day weekend. Get everybody back home in Ontario for a brief period of time. So I love Labor Day weekend. It wraps up the summer, starts the fall.
Cool.
It's mine right now.
Last question. What is your favorite Hallmark or romantic movie?
Ooh. Well, I think The Good Witch was pretty good for a while.
It was good.
And I really like The Way Home.
Yeah, it's really good.
That's a TV series.
We love it. Yeah.
But I think Heather and Alex have got something special there. So I'm going to go with that for now.
Okay. Very good. Well, you answered all the questions. We're so excited to watch season 17. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. And we just love the show. So thanks for making it.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye. I'd like to thank Chris for coming on the podcast. This was a blast. I thought his answers were really good and insightful, and he was very warm. And so I just really enjoyed talking with him. I hope you all enjoyed it. Love to hear your comments in the comment section or on Twitter. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. And we would so appreciate it. And I will put a playlist with all of our Heartland content in the description. So make sure you check that out. We're going to have our recap of the premiere of season 17 coming up. So you don't want to miss that. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is a great way to support us and get more of the content that you love, exclusive reviews and watch-alongs and other fun stuff. So check that out. Also, check out the merch store. We do have some Heartland inspired merch. So take a look at that. And thanks again to Chris. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.